When I was a little kid, I remember people asking me, who do you love more, your dad or your mom? Well, my father was never around, so I don't know much about my father. The perfect answer to the question, of course, is to say I love both my mother and father the same. But in reality, I love my mother more. My experiences with her are more positive than my experiences with my father. I knew more about my mother than my father. So the answer to the question, who do we love more, our father or mother, depends on our experiences with both parents. Again, the perfect scenario is for us to have many positive experiences with both our parents, to know a lot about both our parents, and to love both our parents equally. Unfortunately, this is not the case for me. For many Filipino Americans, especially those who were born in the United States or who moved there when they were young, their experiences with the American culture is portrayed as more positive than the Filipino culture. Oftentimes, the Filipino culture is even portrayed as being not as good as the American culture. Many grow up hearing parents, relatives, and friends make fun of other Filipinos for being fobs, having accents, being too dark, having a flat nose, or whatever else. For many, their exposure to the Filipino culture is very limited. Sometimes it is not even there at all. They have never been to the Philippines. They were not taught their native language. They were not taught the history of their heritage. Therefore, many do not know very much about the Filipino culture. So, when we ask many Filipino Americans today, who do you love more, your American self or your Filipino self? Do not be surprised if many Filipinos love the American culture a lot more than the Filipino culture. For some, they might even be ashamed of, embarrassed of, or hate the fact that they are Filipino. Similar to the parents' example I shared earlier, the perfect and best scenario is for Filipino Americans to have many positive experiences with both the American and Filipino culture. For Filipino Americans to know a lot about both the American and Filipino culture. For Filipino Americans to have a good understanding of the histories of both the American and the Filipino culture. For Filipino Americans to perceive and regard both the American and Filipino cultures as equally positive. For Filipino Americans to love both the American and Filipino parts of their identity equally. Unfortunately, similar to how I regard my father and my mother, this is not the case for many Filipino Americans. Many Filipino Americans today love and value their American selves more. I share this story and analogy to express one simple message. I encourage all of us to make sure that we provide other Filipino Americans the opportunity to develop a positive view of the Filipino culture. Share stories of the Philippines. Share the history that you know. Talk about Filipino culture, art, tradition, and life in a positive manner, or at least in a way that it is portrayed as equally good as the American things. Share our native languages. Let us not forget our Filipino selves, and let us remember that for us to truly love our entire being, we need to love all parts of ourselves, both the American and the Filipino. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.